Our very special guest on Absolutely Famous today is one of the all-time greats of women's cricket, not only of New Zealand cricket, but of world cricket. In 2013, she was inducted into the ICC Hall of Fame. In 1999, she was appointed a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit, and in 2021, in the New Year's Honours list, she was promoted to Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit. She is President of New Zealand Cricket. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, a very warm welcome to the legend, Debbie Hockley. Debbie, lovely to have you on the show.
Morena, John. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
No, it's awesome. I'm just saying off here that I think it was 1986 the last time I had a yarn to you, probably at the Lancaster Park club rooms after a day's cricket.
Probably was. That is a very, very long time ago.
Scary, isn't it?
Yeah. Very scary, yeah.
Congratulations on a fantastic career and all the wonderful things you've achieved too, Debbie. I always knew, well, all us boys always knew you were something special, and and we've been proven right.
Thank you.
You used to play, well, as I say, for Lancaster Park, and they were fun times, but you've achieved so much in cricket. I never actually asked you all those times I spoke to you, what got you into cricket? What got you started way back in the day?
Look, I think, kind of back in the day, because I'm 59 now, so, like back in the day when I was at primary school, late 60s, early 70s, that really whole traditional thing of playing on the backyard, really played with my neighbour, John Buxton. He was my next door neighbour, and we used to have epic contests. At our home, we had a really long side lawn. He had a concrete driveway, so it was kind of like playing at different continents, playing on different pitch conditions that we might be playing on the grass on my side lawn one day, and then we might go and play on his concrete driveway the next day. So really the backyard stuff. Primary school, we didn't have a team, but I know that I used to have a few hits on the big backyard area at North New Brighton School in Christchurch. But Ethna Rouse, who was a New Zealand player herself, she has informed me that she did a letterbox drop, and also just went around primary schools to say if any females were interested in playing cricket. That at the time, the Western Women's Cricket Club, which later amalgamated with Lancaster Park to become Lancaster Park women's team. So she was probably instrumental in getting me to play for a club. And so I played for the Western Women's Cricket Club when I was quite young, like probably, 10 or 11 or something like that. And played, I think what gave me a really good grounding in cricket was at the time that I started playing for the senior side at Western, there were 4 New Zealand reps playing in that side, and it was back in those days where I think probably when I played for the senior women's side, which was Western at the time, I think I probably fielded, for about 3 seasons because you just kind of did your time, back in the good old days. Like, that's what just happened, which is kind of very different from now, is my understanding that that I think, like my parents just left me to it, and that was my grounding, being brought up in a team of very experienced but kind of players who had high expectations and things, and I just basically really I would describe it as doing my time. And then I've had so many things that have happened in my cricket career that have just really happened through chance, and one of those was that in about 1976, or 78, I think it might have been actually, 78, the Women's Cricket World Cup was on in India, and 6 Canterbury players went to that tournament, and of course that left 6 spaces open in the Canterbury side, and so I got an opportunity when I was 15, I think, along with 5 other players who may never have had that chance. And we played in our first national tournament. And from there, I had opportunities to play in the New Zealand under-23 team, which was a wonderful initiative. And then same year, I got selected in the New Zealand side. So it was kind of a case of opportunities presented themselves. And I know that you've got to take the opportunities, but I always say to people, look, I've got no idea why I got picked in that first New Zealand team when I was 16, but I wasn't going to say no, and that was kind of like the start of my cricket career, I suppose.
Very astute selection. Whoever selected you deserves a gold medal. They could see what was coming up. You played incredibly in 5 World Cups, and it took you to the last one to win it. But what a way to bow out. If you're going to bow out of cricket, in 2000 at the Bert Sutcliffe Oval, one of the great finals ever, I'd suggest. And I'll let you talk us through the game, but New Zealand scored 184, and against Australia, they had some of the greats of the game in their team. And
so
did you really think you had a show? Well, let's say before the game started.
Well, I think the fact that we had made the final was really terrific because we'd lost to Australia. It was the same format as the World Cup that has just been played in New Zealand here. Basically like a round robin, which I really love. I love having the opportunity of playing every other country rather than playing in pools and then crossing over. And I suppose that's the beauty of not having too many teams in your tournament, that you get a chance to play everyone. It's really the best way of getting a real true sense of being a world champion, isn't it? When you've actually played everyone else. You've had the semi-final, you've made the final. And look, even though we had lost to Australia, we deserved to make the final. And so, you'd have to say we haven't had a wonderful record against Australia in all the years, but I think on that day, they certainly had some very big names in their side. But to be fair, so did we really. And even 184 in a 50-over game, you're thinking, but. I always believe that when you've got those runs on the board, the other team's still got to score one more than you, and that sometimes creates its own pressure in itself. And on that particular day, when we were in the field, we had a couple of outstanding pieces of fielding, which, if you ever want to know why fielding is so important in shorter form games of cricket, any forms of game, but more especially probably in T20s and one days, then that was kind of the epitome of that on that day, that Helen Watson, our side, affected a run out of Karen Rolton, who really absolutely truly was one of the greats of the game. Not only just in that tournament, but kind of forever. Belinda Clark as well. Really, we were just tenacious, and I think, so much credit needed to go to our bowlers, which our bowlers, to be fair, had probably, I believe, been the mainstay of our side for a lot of our victories, especially that we'd had against Australia, because more often than not, we were probably, to be fair, disappointing with our batting effort. But we had bowlers who could really just, put the brakes on and that create the pressure in itself. People like, Katrina Keenan, Catherine Campbell, and Claire Nicholson. I specifically remember at that particular game, off their 10 overs, none of them probably went for more than 35 runs. And so that tenaciousness of just doing it for your mates, keeping on, and really, as you say, it was a fantastic game. Get to the last over in a World Cup for someone like me and Catherine. We knew it was going to be our last game ever for New Zealand. We hadn't said anything beforehand because neither of us are kind of like that. But within ourselves, we knew that that's what it was going to be. You get to the last over of a World Cup, remembering, of course, that. Say for both Catherine and myself, Catherine's a good mate of mine, but for both Catherine and myself, we'd been part of the losing team in the last 2 World Cup finals. So 12 years we'd been playing and winning World Cup finals, and we'd lost in England in 93, we'd lost in India in 97. So comes down to the last over, they need 4 runs to win, we need 1 wicket. And I was down on the long on boundary because Claire Nicholson, our off spinner, was bowling the final over. And I was down there thinking, right, if it comes to me, I'm catching it, as opposed to other people who think, oh my God, please don't hit it to me. But and I guess the best thing, she was bowling to their either number 10 or 11, I can't remember. And you know how, like, probably in final overs, in any type of match, you're always saying, oh, they need to bowl a perfect block hole ball, need to bowl it full and straight, but not for Claire. She bowled it short and wide. Unfortunately, that number 10 or 11, because she was an off spinner, went to try and cut it, got on the edge, and Rebecca Rolls took a great catch, catching up. And you know, probably the best thing was, at least it was off the first ball of the last over, so we didn't have to wait any longer. So it was pretty phenomenal. Yeah, as you say, it was a wonderful occasion and a terrific game of cricket.
Yeah, that's amazing. I remember watching the highlights of it. It was a thrilling game of cricket. The recent World Cup, Debbie, you must have got a lot of joy out of that. It was a fantastic tournament, and it just shows you how far women's cricket's come.
Totally. And you know, and probably the biggest thing, I probably said this about 10 times during the tournament, I have to say, John, is that to me it was a miracle that the tournament was played, and I cannot speak highly enough of those who got it going. You know, the organising committee, New Zealand Cricket, and the government had a big part to play in it as well, especially being in the middle of our Omicron sort of crisis, or whatever you want to call it, that there were so many changing factors, you know, pretty much every day for the local organising committee. And I just think it was such a credit to them for the tournament actually taking part, and for all the teams who, you know, they followed all the protocols and things like that. And you know, we only actually had one player who was not able to play in those very early rounds, Ash Gardner from Australia, who tested positive. But for the whole rest of the tournament until the very end, you know, we were able to get all the games in, and having 5 matches in that tournament where the result wasn't known until the last over. I think that it was such an exciting tournament, and the standard of cricket was great, and largely that was due to playing on really excellent pitches. So again, I give credit to all of the people within the New Zealand organisation who actually made it happen, because I think they played in really good conditions, and yet again it shows that that's a key element for women's cricket, is you must play on really good pitches, because otherwise you don't get to see how well women can play. And so half the time in the past, it's not been because they haven't had the talent, it's because they haven't been given the really good pitches to be able to demonstrate that talent. So I thought it was outstanding. And when you come down to, say, a semi-final, it was like the last game to determine the semi-finalists when South Africa played against India. Again, the game was decided on the last ball. You know, you just couldn't. It was so gripping.
Yeah, it was fabulous to watch. I watched a lot of it. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I loved. There was a couple of standing ovations at Hagley Park too when the ground was packed, and that,
yes,
you know, that's a turning point for the game for a start.
Well, and you know, I was really, really, really proud of New Zealanders, and probably especially people from Christchurch, because in the final, like, the ground was packed. New Zealand wasn't in the final, so, you know, Australia playing England, but the ground was still packed, and I was pleased for the players, but also the organisers, and pleased for the spectators, because, gosh, could you ever see a more magnificent demonstration of cricket than that game, you know, with Alyssa Healy getting 170 or something. And like I've said, poor old Nat Sibber from England, she scores 148 not out, but is still on the losing side. I mean, seriously, when is that ever going to happen again?
That's quality cricket. The Australian side's something to behold, isn't it? I mean, and it doesn't surprise me either, because I know firsthand what their development program is, and it starts about the age of 12 when they have a national tournament.
Yes.
So it's the cricket, women's cricket over here has just exploded with the Big Bash.
Yeah. Yes, totally. They, you know, Australian cricket have done things very, very well, and, you know, good on them. I just, you know, I fangirled them for the whole tournament, actually, mostly because, you know, I just love watching good cricket, and it shows what you can aspire to. And I think that they've done really well with that, and they deserve absolutely everything that they've achieved. And the good thing is that they're an inspiration for all other countries to try and achieve that standard.
And of course, our marvellous captain, Sophie Devine, she's revered over here in Australia as well with the Perth Scorchers. What a wonderful player, but she probably had to carry a bit much during the tournament on her shoulders.
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned earlier on, I think that batting for some reason, batting for the New Zealand women's team has often been more of a disappointment than we would like, and I think it's probably fair to say that that was really still the case, because when you're playing on good pitches, you need to have good totals. So yes, I think that look, overall, the New Zealand side, the only word that you could use for how they would have felt at the end of that tournament is disappointed. And you really have to spread the load. And, the Black Caps, for example, are a really good demonstration at the moment where they have a lot of contributors, a lot of consistent contributors. And that's what I will be hoping to see with the White Ferns, I don't know, maybe over the next 5 years, because although I was just looking at the contracted players before, and there's still a really good basis of very experienced players within that 17 that have been contracted for New Zealand cricket. So, all of them, they got to front up though. They've got some changes in that side now, but those senior players, they have to really aim for good consistency, because that's really what carries you through with the batting. So while Sophie's one of those number, to me, every other person who's maintained their place in the side, it's up to them to really look over this next couple of years to step up to a new level.
Yeah, as you say, and nurture the young talent coming through. Pretty exciting to have Ben Sawyer appointed as coach. He's highly regarded over here, and he's coached the Birmingham Phoenix in the English competition, the 100, and assistant coach with the Australian women's team, so he comes with pretty good credentials.
Well, he does, and I know that there was a very robust interview process. There were some very good candidates, and so you trust that there's a very good reason that Ben was chosen, and yes, it's an exciting prospect for him. I saw him say that he's been really keen on. For some time on coaching an international side, and now he's got his opportunity, and I think what an exciting opportunity, having a mix of some experienced players but some younger talent coming through. It'll be important to nurture them through, but also I really hope that they will actually get an opportunity, say especially at the Commonwealth Games and the Tour of West Indies that follow. I'm really hoping that some of those newer players will actually get a chance to play, because unless you play at that level, it's difficult to judge where you are on the international level, if that makes sense. Because while we have our own domestic competitions here, we don't have a T20 competition of the calibre of, say, the Women's Big Bash League, where you have a lot of overseas players as well. So I think it's really only when you can have a go at playing against other countries that you know where you are. So I'm hoping that that's what Ben will do, is have a mixture of introducing the newer players, over the years cricket, both at the Commonwealth Games and the West Indies tour later on.
Isn't it wonderful that the Commonwealth Games is featuring women's cricket? I mean, another great stage to show how good the game is, and I think it's very exciting. Fantastic. It's in Birmingham. I think it starts on July the 29th. So
yes, that's right. I was just looking at our draw. I think that we've got South Africa, Sri Lanka, and England, I think. So, the thing about the Commonwealth is there's lots of very good teams in the Commonwealth. So again, it's going to be a good challenge. But yes, what an experience in a circumstance where it's not just like a single tour or even just a World Cup, that you have lots of other sports. And I saw Susie Bates saying that you're a team within a team, and I think that that's something that the the women's cricket team won't have experienced. Susie's experienced it herself with having been to the Beijing Olympics, I think it was. But being that team within a team will be a whole new experience. So yeah, it'd be fabulous.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun, I'd imagine. And so, your job as president of New Zealand Cricket, Debbie, what does that entail? I'd imagine there's a bit of work involved.
Well, in actual fact, it's an honorary position. So it's like I guess that it's like a figurehead, or kind of, if you wanted to say, like an ambassador. So it's a voluntary position, but the lovely thing about it is that I get opportunities to represent New Zealand cricket around New Zealand, but also in other countries. So next month, for example, I'm such a lucky girl again that I'm jetting off to Ireland and to Scotland, because the Black Caps are playing against Ireland and Scotland. So I'm lucky enough to be able to get over and support them, and just a lot. Basically, I go to things, try to behave myself, not put a foot wrong, represent New Zealand cricket to the best of my ability, and that's pretty much what my role is, really. Yeah.
I'm sure you'll enjoy a Guinness or two with the Irish over there.
Probably will. Yeah, it would be rude. It would be rude not to, John.
It would. It would really, and the Scots, they're good fun too.
They are. Yeah.
Debbie, on a really serious note, you've had a couple of really tough battles with cancer, and thankfully survived them both. No doubt because you were vigilant. Can you just tell us about that and the importance of women and men being vigilant about this terrible disease?
Oh yeah. Look, that's true. I had a bit of bad luck, really, I suppose, but I'm glad that you have asked me to chat about it, because basically both of the cancers I had uterine cancer, or its official title is endometrial cancer, but it's cancer of the uterus, and then I had breast cancer, and both of those were picked up by routine screening. So the uterine cancer, I was so incredibly lucky, because I thought, right, I haven't booked a cervical smear for a long time, and there's probably a good reason not to. It's never an exciting thing, but it's not exciting when you're having it, but I always think it's probably not very exciting for the doctor doing it.
No.
It's probably like guys having a prostate exam. But the thing is that like, we take our cars for warrant of fitnesses and things like that vigilantly and stuff, and I could easily have not done it, but if I hadn't booked with my GP to have the cervical smear done, I seriously don't think I would be alive, because I was just really lucky in that the cervical smear test happened to pick up a few cancer cells that had migrated south and just got picked up. And so the GP called me and said, "Oh, look, something's showing up. You better get it checked out." Lo and behold, it was endometrial cancer. So, that was 2018. So in the November of that, I had an operation for that. Had a total hysterectomy, because that's the treatment. Then I had radiotherapy and chemotherapy afterwards, and had unfortunately I had a complication from the radiotherapy, and that it fried my gut a bit. So the following year, sort of in about December of 2019, I was just like, I was vomiting all the time and stuff. Ended up that stuff wasn't getting through my gut, so I ended up having to have almost like have a feeding tube put on my arm, and so every night I'd hook up to a feed bag. So I had 6 months really of being fed overnight by a liquid feed, so that it gave my gut time to heal. And in conjunction with that, I did 6 weeks of hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which is what divers do when they go to the bends, but that type of treatment is being used more nowadays for sort of wound healing. So anyway, cut a long story short, so I had 6 months of that, and the brilliant thing was, probably with the combination of the hyperbaric oxygen therapy plus the the feed, it's called TPN, total parenteral nutrition, I didn't end up needing to have an operation on my gut, so that was fab. And so I had 3 weeks because I had a thing called a pick line. Oh, you'll know that, John, being
Yeah,
a nurse,
yeah.
but I had a pick line in my arm, which basically I hooked up my liquid feed to every night. That pick line was in my arm for 6 months and 3 days, and
And counting.
And 3 weeks after I had it out, which was great because I was back eating and everything, which was fabulous. But I had a routine mammogram, and bugger me, really, if I can say that. But I got diagnosed with breast cancer, so I was pretty gutted. To be fair, I was pretty gutted with that.
Yeah.
However, I ended up having so I had a mastectomy, which was I didn't mind. I just wanted to get rid of it and live.
Yeah.
So I had a mastectomy, and I didn't need, it hadn't spread, thank God. So I didn't need any radio or chemo. So I've kind of had a bit, it was a bit of a 2.5 years to be fair, but and probably it was quite funny because I ended up on national TV a couple of times, just through mostly through stories about like being made a companion of New Zealand Order of Merit and stuff like that. But both times, I had the opportunity of doing the same thing about talking about preventative screening, because if you're kind of lucky enough to have the platform like this, then I think why would you not do that? Because I am a living, breathing example of how preventative screening can save your life. Like in both of those instances, from a cervical smear test, from a routine mammogram, if I hadn't had either of those, I absolutely would not be here talking to you today. So my biggest thing is, look, if you, for any females or for males who have female partners or sisters or mothers or any females in your life, just check to see that people are having routine screening. And if it's females and you think, oh God, horrible process, yes, we know it's not no one likes it, but the thing is, just go in and get it done, because it literally can save your life. So it's nice to have the opportunity to say that, and because I think that when maybe if people are a bit hesitant about doing it, they might remember, if they've listened to this podcast, saying, well, look, she did it, and it really helped save your life. So that would certainly be my message.
Exactly, and emotionally, you seem to have completely nailed it. You're back to your old chirpy self, and it's good.
Oh well, I think actually it's interesting. I suppose the way I approached it, it was kind of a bit like a project, and I think for many people it's like that, because you just you've got two choices. You either get on and do what it is that you have to do to try and get it sorted, or you give up. And clearly that's not an option for a lot of people. But I did get on, and like in my role as president, once I'd finished the chemo, actually, I waited the 10 days, because you're not supposed to fly 10 days after the chemo treatment. But I was a bit cheeky, and because the Men's Cricket World Cup was on at that time, the infamous game at Lord's.
Brilliant.
And I asked the chiefs at New Zealand Cricket whether I might be able to go to support the guys, and they said yes. So I'm so lucky, but I was bald because I'd lost all my hair. So, but I got a trip to England with that, and I was standing in that flaming long room when that ball came off Ben Stokes' bat and just dribbled over the boundary.
Yeah, I know.
I regarded it as a bit of a project, and fortunately I've got through, and I just kind of keep my fingers crossed all the time that it never comes back, because I feel like I've done my time with it.
Absolutely, have you ever. Debbie, it's been lovely to talk to you, and like I say, congratulations for all your amazing achievements, and we're honoured to have you on our show.
Thanks, John. Thank you. Look, it's been I've had nearly as many good things happen since I finished playing as I did when I did, play. So I do feel truly blessed, and thanks for the opportunity, because it was lovely to chat to you.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, Debbie. We'll look forward to catching up in the future.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Debbie. That's awesome.